Hello, everyone, and welcome to a real special episode of The Lifting today. Today's episode is being filmed on 10/22/24. We are here with Arkheim Ra today. Say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we're here today with him, and we're interviewing him on timelines and timeline conversions. This is going to be a pretty excellent show, folks. But before I start forgetting our intro today, our Law of One, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, to come in and help support this conversation so it may be had in peace, and allow people to listen to it in peace, to bring in the information and to pull from it what serves you in the here and now. And with that, and with great, great blessings we send your ways always, we say, so be it.
So be it. All right, everybody. This is going to be very interesting today with Arkheim Ra. Both of him and I were in the different programs and time travel programs together. You may have seen some other previous discussions him and I were on in the past couple of months. And it's proving to be very interesting topic and set of topics with us. So, Arkheim, I'm going to give you the floor at this point.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess one of the things that has been coming up lately a lot in this community of truthers, whistleblowers, whatever you want to call us. People are talking about like higher timelines, like manifesting a higher timeline jumping. Just in general, timelines are a huge topic in conversation right now. And I'm not trying to sound all high and mighty, but it's okay to, acknowledge your strengths, I guess. And then that's what I'm doing here. I have been to a lot of timelines. Like I've talked about in interviews in the past that I had a coin select collection at Montauk of all the coins from the United States region and all the different realities, and not just the United States region, but just coins from different realities. So, and I kept them. And so that's the thing you can do. They don't just like dematerialize when you go to another reality or something like that. You can take stuff from one reality to another reality and all that. So yeah, I've been to all sorts of different realities and timelines. And from what I'm seeing with what people are reporting about the current timeline we're on, is, we are entering a higher timeline because we're basically demanding it, a lot of us, right? We are demanding to be on a higher timeline. We were taken off of the proper timeline through nefarious means, like time travel and stuff like that. A lot of it going towards source, going towards God. So it's like the universe itself wants us to win, kind of thing. So we are in the process of making that happen. But I also want people to understand that the human desire, which is sort of instilled in our DNA to worship leaders, to follow, we don't want to let that get in the way of how we actually pull this all off, which is us all individually stepping into our own power, recognizing our own sovereignty, and asserting that in our lives. That's how we really get things done. So, some of the stories that people are telling to me personally from what I've experienced, and I know I'm taken to a lot of realities for them to confuse me, because it's called bubble swaps. I've brought this up before in secret space programs where they're using you against your will, sort of. And when you're they're using me against my will. It's not sort of. When you have these, when you're getting memories back, one of the things they'll do to mitigate this is all these different realities, these time corporations and stuff like that are in contact with each other across these realities. So one of the things that they'll do, it's called bubble swaps, where they'll switch, because they have time operations that are in bubbles. They'll switch assets. They'll trade a me from this reality for a me from another reality, send us off on our way for our 20 and back or whatever it is, and then place us back in our native reality. And by doing that, they're able to confuse us as to what is going on in the reality that we're in. So when we come on the internet like this and we're whistleblowing programs, sometimes we might be incorrect and it might be from different realities. And this is an aspect that, you know, I've even had certain people who are in the programs argue with me like there's only one reality, and I just know that's not true. And there's a lot of different realities, and maybe it depends on your security clearance, how much you're allowed to see. But yeah, they communicate with each other, they're aware of each other, and you know, we can choose to be on a higher timeline by the frequency you resonate on, because we are like receivers. The song Radiohead by Talking Heads is a really good description of what this is. It's like our brains are radio heads, radios, tuning into realities, we're creating the reality. It's a feedback loop. So like what you see is creating what you experience, which is creating what you are, which is creating what you see, which is creating what you experience, which is creating what you are, which is creating what you see, which is creating you and you. And it's this holy act of all the different pieces of one, which you guys mentioned in the beginning, creating each other and creating this thing. And I don't know, I guess that's my brief rant introduction about like all the different timelines and how they correlate. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions, or if you want to know a way somewhere to steer the conversation from there or whatever.
Yeah, what's interesting is I too have seen into a multitude of different realities, even ones that are exactly the same but only slightly different, where it took a different path. I've even seen
Mm-hmm.
I've seen realities where I suffered an injury and went one way, or I avoided one and went another. You know,
Yeah, so some realities that they have where you're like they're so similar, they're almost the same. Like they'll actually be like A, B, C, and D. So it'll be like reality 1139 A, 1139 B, 1139 C, because they're all kind of existing parallel to each other, and then they can close. So
Mhm.
that's one of the ways that we would categorize them. And the idea in any time travel project is the more realities you have simultaneously occurring, the harder it can be to control. So that can be a bad thing. But also, if you want a lot of resources, it's kind of like a cheat code, because then you just multiplied how many tanks you have, or how many this you have, or how many, and then you can literally bring them over into your reality. And then once those realities collapse, that stuff will still exist.
Mhm.
So there's been situations where realities will raid other realities and like collapse them and stuff like that. This is part of what happens in warfare. It's not just time travels. Realities will literally fight each other. And if other realities are aware of a timeline collapsing, they'll go in there and they'll raid them before they collapse and bring the stuff back. So it's pretty wild, you guys. It gets crazy. And that's how Montauk got a lot of resources. It's like, it's a bad thing to have a bunch of different realities, like I said, because it's harder to control it, harder to know what's going on, harder to remote view all of it, and stuff like that. But on a plus side, you are able to like grab resources from other realities and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just
That's the whole premise, what you just said, of behind where we start our whole galactic history conversation of having a dying reality with a race that had no intention to go with it. And how then does it bust into another one to try and keep themselves going exactly how they were going before, which led to wars and led to all kinds of things. So we use that exactly what you just said is the whole premise of us talking about the negative that came through and busted into this reality, long time ago in history. So I appreciate you saying that, because obviously, we would agree with you that happens, because that's the whole beginning of our storyline with that part of it. So it's very interesting. And the other thing that I find is really interesting, that I hope this helps people shed a little more light in this conversation, is oftentimes people think jumping these timelines it was good here and it was bad there, instead of what we're really talking about, which is onion layers of change, which is what, again, you guys are talking about, the onion layers of change. So there is thought that we're jumping timelines all the time potentially, because we're not talking a drastic difference from here to here. We're talking minute differences, and that people can go and jump timelines pretty frequently to try and jump here for a second, jump there, that's even better and it's not so drastic.
Yeah, and I mean, there's scientific evidence of it. You know, science measures things. That's what science is, right? It's a force that measures things. And one of the things, the forces we're seeing that measures this is people are having memories of a Shazam movie that doesn't exist with what's that guy's name in there?
Oh yeah, that was with yeah, I know exactly what you're
The
talking about.
comedian.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Sinbad.
Sinbad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people remember that. People remember the Fruit of the Loom thing being different. A recent one is in Pinky in the Brain. It used to be when my reality it as I know it. Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Pinky? And in Kat, my partner's reality, it's are you pondering what I'm pondering? That's the way she experienced
That's
it.
interesting. I
So
remember
it's just like
thinking what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I remember.
which
Yeah.
would, I mean, we're both at Montauk, so maybe that's part of the reason for that. She was too, but like I think they like sent her to a different program like that or something like that. We've been trying to figure that out because she's like totally in these programs. She's connected to Hathor, and I'm connected to Ra, which I figured out with Amir. And I know that sounds like really wild and maybe inflated ego kind of thing, but I've just seen a lot of things that line up with it, and I've had a lot of weird experiences, and I denied it for a lot longer than I've accepted it. You know what I mean? Because I've seen things that suggested it for a long time, and I didn't really want to go there, but now it's starting to make sense. And I think that makes sense too. Why there's like they had to make so many altars of me because I was a son, and then I became a being, and then that made I was a very powerful being because of that. And then they saw me as a threat, so they had to split me into a bunch of different pieces. Like Tony Rodriguez talks about how when he was split into two, he felt like watered down, like less than himself. And after his 20 and back, then he felt normal again. And so for me, I have a theory that part of the reason why they have me in all these different clones and all these different places and all these different programs is because they're scared of me, and they're doing this as a way to mitigate my energy to keep me down. That's what I think. So I'm sorry if it sounds absolutely insane that I'm calling myself the sun god Ra. To some people, I know to you it won't, but I think that when these programs are verified, which they will, it will verify that everything I was saying to some degree was true. You know what I mean? I might have gotten a few details off here and there because of the way they fuck with our memory and stuff, but overall, everything I'm saying is true. And I do think that I'm connected to Ra. It explains why when they kidnapped me when I was a kid and I was getting from the tag program and at Johnston Elementary, the talented and gifted program, they were taking me out of that. I remember how they're like torturing me and trying to activate my abilities. Like they told me that I'll be able to remote view stuff. I had no idea what they're talking about. And I was really confused. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it. And they're like, we know what you are, you fucking monster. You're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to see the colors or whatever. And I've talked about that before. And now it all makes sense to me. Like I was Ra, like Ra was, I think there was a point where we were our collective was not exactly great towards humans at all. And I think that there's some hatred towards me because of that, which is not wrong, but that doesn't mean you turn me into like a weapon for like satanic evil groups either. That's
Some
not
of
the
these
solution
beings had
either.
to incarnate again. I noticed with especially the original nine, because I've noticed that the original versions of the nine of Egypt have been dark, but at the same time, any of the regular incarnations that they've had seem to be trickling back towards these larger selves and actually starting to correct some of these character flaws. And
Yeah, like I don't think, well, I can say some stuff about what I remember, which I haven't watched, like for instance the Farsight Institute thing on me because I know it's going to be super duper heavy. But I'll say stuff that I remember that I can only imagine lines up with that, and people can maybe comment in the video on that because I'm sure there's people that watch that. But what I remember is we had humanity as slaves, but we called them servants, and they worshipped us and like willingly did it because they thought we were their gods. So that was like our morality cheat code, like our moral compass cheat code. Because we did have a moral compass, but that was we're like they love it. We're their gods or whatever. It's so stupid, but that's the way we looked at it. And then, we kind of maybe weren't paying attention to everything as much. We left. I remember I left for a while with some of the collective, and then we came back, and everything was all crazy, and like humans were breeding with some of the more humanoid ET and all this stuff, and some of their humans becoming ascended masters and things like that. And we're like, wait a minute. And a lot of the humans were like aware that we were just star beings, we weren't gods, and like that for us, from what I recall, made us be like, okay, well, now what do we do? And dude, our solution, the original solution that we came up with, which some of they had to vote on it. Some of the collective was for it, some of it the collective wasn't. It was really kind of a close vote, from what I recall. But the vote was just to kill all the humans. That was what we decided, and it's in the hieroglyphics. We're just gonna kill them all. Like they're like gonna keep breeding. They're gonna just like cause all these problems. Like it's our responsibility. Because let's face it. If you look at what the secret space programs are, we weren't necessarily wrong. Human beings like to go to other native species planets. They go back in time. They take them over. They extract the resources of their worlds. Totally screw up their worlds. We're kind of like this kind of not doing good stuff out there. So I can kind of understand the mentality of why they're scared of us. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I do. I've actually seen, like especially with like say where the space Nazis come in or the Martian Germans come in. Yeah, they're pirates. So
Yeah.
they're definitely. I spent time in the 20 back around the Nachtwaffen and a lot of the Martian elite, and yeah, they're evil as they come. And
So, and then back in history time frame, I know you say raw, but it always brings to me this is Anunnaki behavior. This is
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I lost my train of thought. The story of that is that was our solution, and then it even says we sent Sekhmet down to take care of the problem and start killing everybody, which I
Mhm.
think just meant like Lyrians. I'm pretty sure, like in general, because
Yeah.
the Lyrians were more than happy to take care of it because they never liked the human beings to begin with.
Some of the ones I've
Um,
met have been, yeah.
So I think you may actually, although you are anchoring in on things that did happen in the Egyptian time frame, the ones that were acting like that, even who took on godlike names to present themselves as a god to the people, were Anunnaki.
Yeah.
So in the
Yeah.
Anunnaki family line.
And from what I recall, because I have a memory that's really important, which I think I should get into, but I want to elaborate too. We in the middle of doing this, killing all the humans, and it says this in the hieroglyphics. We realized, man, we're fucking up. Like this is a huge mistake. This is the worst mistake we've ever made, ever. We can't kill them. They're our children. They're our responsibility. We have to like be their parents. Like, because one of the reasons we kind of were forced into accepting that, because when we tried to fight humans, they were extremely admirable opponents. They're good at they're good at war. Human beings are really good at war. That's just a fact. They are. They're fucking brilliant at it because we programmed them because we were using them as warriors in space wars and stuff like that. So yeah. And I remember one of the things I remember is teleporting down to talk to a king, which it's probably one of the biblical kings, but I don't want to say the wrong name and get it wrong or something like that. But I remember it was like during those times, and I remember that he expected me to be like, tell them that they have to make all these compromises and then we'll leave them alone. And the whole thing he just instantly was like, we're not giving you shit. We're not wavering. We're going to keep fighting. Like, if you want us to compromise, we're not going to. And I was like, hold your horses. I didn't say that. I didn't talk like that. You know what I mean? But I'm just being
the equivalent
using human youth, like talking like myself now. I was just like, no, we were wrong. And he was really surprised. Like, he almost thought it was a trick. I'm like, no, seriously, we were wrong. We're going to help you. This was just what we've done here is we need to rectify this. And we basically said that the Anunnaki and the Draco were out of hand. So, because here's what it was: is my people, the Ra, which maybe there's another name for them or whatever, but they're bird people. They were really close to this group, very high in the caste of the Draconian Empire, this reptilian group, and our planets were kind of like sister planets in a way. And when we met each other, it was. I'm actually getting kind of emotional thinking about this. I kind of have to
Hmm. All right.
When we met each other, we our cultures were so similar. We were so shocked by it. You know what I mean? Like they worshipped dragons, and the highest caste in their society was dragons, and then we worshipped Phoenix. They were the highest caste in our society. We worshipped them. They made the decisions. They were our gods, basically, and so similar. And we could ride Phoenix and stuff like that, and like they could ride dragons, and it was like we would bond with them. It was like a very sacred thing to have one. You know what I mean? And it was a huge part of your life when you were
Mhm.
given one. It was like becoming a man, basically, or a woman, and like yeah, it was just a huge part of our society. And when we met each other, we're just like, wow, we're so similar, and our religions blended, our cultures blended. We sort of had this exchange, which I think might have something to do with the myth of like, which isn't a myth, but the feathered serpent thing. I
Mhm.
think it might have something to do with that. And then on the Egyptian crown, the of like King Tut and stuff like that, you see the serpent and then you see the bird. You know what I mean? So it's like I think there was a thing there where we had this union, but the thing that happened is they started the Draconians that were, and I can't remember the race they were called because the Draconians is a bunch of different reptilian races. This was a specific one, but I'll just, for lack of me the right term, I'll call them the Draco. But basically, these Draco, um, they they started talking to the Anunnaki, the Zami, whatever people call them, it doesn't really matter. We'll call them the Anunnaki in this interview. They started talking to the Anunnaki, and they had a might is right kind of mentality, right? Where they were really strong, and they're like, hey, this will make all our empire stronger. Our alliance with them, like, trust us, this is a good idea. And we were more wary of them because they're different. They weren't like us, where we were so alike and we understood each other. Their culture was way different than ours, right? And a lot of things about it we sort of didn't like. But they're like, hey, don't be a xenophobic. You know what I mean? That's their culture. They're different. They're mighty warriors. And we're like, yeah, 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 you're kind of right. You're right. You know what I mean? We kind of just had to accept them. But then when it came to the point with, there's just a lot of situations. It wasn't just the humans, but we don't need to get into every situation, but the situation with the humans was one of the biggest ones where we're like, we don't like the humans are self-aware now. Like I remember I've talked about a big thing was like when we were trying to we tried to be like, hey, humans, be free. You're free. Figure your shit out. You're like, someday you can be ascended masters. Like we gave them like kind of scriptures to follow, like to help them, you know what I mean? And sort of leaders and stuff like that to help them. And the Anunnaki were like, oh, well, that's cool, but we're gonna like tell them we're gods. And I remember like I got in a fight with Yahweh. We talked about this in the last interview we did
Yeah,
on my channel with Yahweh about how they were taking all of our humans, like to be slaves when we tried to free them. They're like, oh, well, you weren't using them. Like they're objects or something. And we're like, you guys don't get it. And
yeah.
this whole thing, it led into us having to be like, like I said, with that situation with the humans, like we're like, hey, you're right. The Draco are acting dishonorably and with this alliance that they have with the Anunnaki. And we're like, we're going to side with you. And I remember we did a mission and I will admit it was kind of fucked up, but we felt we had to do it, but it really pissed them off, dude. Out of nowhere, we blindsided a space station, a really important space station with humans. The Ra did. I remember we blindsided, like we just showed. They did not see, because the people who showed up, it was this human armada with an armada of Ra, and we were allowed there. And they kind of like come on the speed, like the thing. They're like, "Hey, what are you doing with all these humans? What's the deal? Just let us know what's going on here." And we just started attacking them and like blew up their space station
Hmm.
and sent a message like and it was called the Great Betrayal by the race that we once had an alliance with. They called it the Great Betrayal, and it's still to this day called the Great Betrayal. And like the wars that we're seeing like play out across the galaxy and stuff like that. Still to this day, a lot of this has to do with just the what's the word for it? Like just the results of this great war, this dividing with them. Like, yeah, it's how I got stuck here
Hmm.
because my people had to leave the earth because it was their domain. They were in control of it. But I was here because everything happened so fast. And yeah, it's it's and if you want to elaborate, you seem to be remembering some of these things too.
Yeah, we look into galactic history quite often, where I've seen some of my focus is Titan and Asgardian history, and whereas where like relationships with Odin, relationships with his family members, and also with there's like also Atlantean history. There's some of that Lemurian history towards the end of those cultures. Some ancient Samaria, following, Enlil, which became Yahweh after a while, following some of where he started to leave his cultural manipulations after a while as well in the Middle East. So, yeah, like some of the things that Bjorn and he's on Galactic Interstellar Council with us, and we started to focus on some of the paths that Enlil took to manipulate religion and things of that nature to get more worshipers, essentially, and essentially why he went into it, why he did it, and analyzing the different timelines associated with that. I noticed that after Asgard shattered, that was the large planet in the middle of our solar system. When the Dark Orions came into this sector, that's one of the things they destroyed was the kingdom of basically Odin's kingdom and the openings to the nine realms. What ended up happening is the nine planets are the apertures of the openings to the different realms. Like you have Vanaheim, which was Venus, for instance. And you have which Asgard is. Both of them went to war with each other. It was the Aesir Vanir wars. You see it in the Norse Scandinavian mythology, and that's where you get the Venusian colonies, or the people that are associated with Valiant Thor and Venusian colonies. So they're the mix between Asgardian and original Vanaheim residents that were there. So to basically went blow by blow, who conquered whom, who did what to whom, things of that nature, and the different timelines that actually sprang forth out of it. And noticing that, like in the show Loki, where you see the Yggdrasil tree, that's what some of these timelines look like. From all the way, stretching all the way into the omniverse and the super omniverse, you have basically on the event horizon of the omniverse and the multiverse is basically the outer edge of this tree, and then the roots of it are essentially more through a nexus that's around Earth at the moment. So that's why there's so much timeline jumping, is because some of these branches of this tree get real close to each other, and then you exchange sides. This is why we always say in some of our
Earth has like a lot of portals to these different realities, and the solar system has a lot of natural gateways to
That's
the
the
other realities
original
and stuff
Viking
like that.
Bifrost. Yeah, the different planets. And what you were saying about collapsing timelines, we always tell people when we make some of our revocations, we always say negativity from collapsing and invading timelines. That's one of the phrases that's in a lot of our revocations, knowing that some of these forces are jumping from collapsing one into our reality via these different portals. And we encounter
Hmm.
this all the time. Sometimes people think some of these forces are demonic, when in fact they're a different version of us from a different reality. Like even some of the aliens people are encountering. I encountered this gray-like species that was like an aqua colored one time. They were like a turquoise color. And at first I thought they were from space, but they were literally another version of humanity in a different parallel reality. And at first, they were telling people they were alien because they didn't know essentially either they were hiding something, or they didn't know how to describe they were literally from right here. So they started. Eventually, they came clean and said, "Yeah, we are literally you guys from a parallel universe. We just evolved slightly differently. We had more different genomic sequence than our own." That's where the grays, also another type of gray, the Orion grays. Essentially, people call them Orion Greys because when they exited their universe, they came from around the arm of Orion, or the belt of Orion, excuse me. And that's where their whole version of their planet came in. And that's where you get the Nibiru mythology from. So there's a parallel universe version of both a version of Earth and Asgard. That's where you get this big, barren, lifeless planet from, and a mutated version of humanity. It's all about these timelines. Now, are there galactics? Oh, yeah, plenty of them. But then there's this area in between dimensions called the interverse, where it's the worlds within worlds, and you have the multiverse, which are the parallel realities, and then you have the omniverse, which is a bunch of multiverses, and then you have the super omniverse, which is a bunch of omniverses. So that's where you get basically Oversoul and Spirit falls under that category over here. So you have all these different, what seems like odd realities, and people that have different sets of physics or living within different sets of physics come into this reality and they look alien. So people put the label alien on them. And it's really multidimensional because Earth is this multidimensional nexus point in millions of different realities all operating at the exact same time. They touch, people switch places, then they notice differences on the timelines. Also, wounds from the old ancient war. We call it the Orion Wars. Whereas there were wounds in time, essentially. You also have Atlantis, Lemuria that caused some of these wounds in time, like the Bermuda Triangle and such. They were using temporal weaponry against each other, and it caused these freaking rips and tears everywhere. Then you had beings on Atlantis that were communicating with other aspects of time in the past. Some of the Orions, they were sending information forward. This is how you get some of the transhumanistic stuff in there, because you have people accessing what these people were accessing from before, because it's never really went anywhere. It's all happening at the same time. So right now. So this is what I was able to actually pick up on. All the beings that we've mentioned so far, all of these different gods and goddesses and all of them, in one time frame, may have had a lot more power than they do now. Some of them want to reach back and try to grab something they either lost, or they feel they want to grab it from other people, like a vampire. So I've noticed that they're trying to access other times, other timelines, where a version of themselves may have had more power. I've noticed this time and again where it's like the end, or the one part of the movie Jason and the Argonauts, the old one, where they're all sitting around playing chess and they're pushing Jason's forces towards a different goal, are kind of funneling them towards a different goal. I call that hedge betting of the gods, pretty much, where they're rolling the dice and they're playing a big game of D&D, pretty much, is essentially what it is. Where they're rolling the dice going, okay, we will create this quest for this person and send them down this path. Like Zeus with Hercules and the 12 labors. That's a beautiful example of that, where Zeus says, okay, go get that piece of equipment over there, kill that creature, we don't like it anymore, things of that nature. Oh, it's become intrusive, we can't actually get to it anymore, could you go put it to the sword, please? Things of that nature. And the Knights of the Round Table, it's the same thing, Quest of the Holy Grail, or Samson and the Philistines, same difference. So it's these different factions that we've noticed that are actually rolling the dice with each other. We nicknamed it Hedge Bets of the Gods after that scene in Jason and the Argonauts.
And then a lot of people are having, as you are, remembrances of times when they may have been a part of something that, where you can see, as you said, I wasn't really the nicest guy, let's say.
Yeah.
But we would say that pretty much about everybody, that we've, experienced it all. We always say we went down the toilet first, let's say. So again, that bad behavior that kind of takes you over, how you treat others. So having that experience like that you were a part of, that many people could, if they saw all their past, would see things like that too. Part of the reason it's probably come to your attention now doesn't have as much to do with then as it has to do now, which is basically having the flip side of that experience. So comparison to that, again, as we do like the 2025 disclosure, how is my contribution going to be now to create an organic, genuine unity amongst people, amongst things? How am I going to present information that is truthful to allow organic unity versus a domination and control of the information, to have a unity that's developed that's kind of a false unity because it's not based on understanding and truth. So people are having all kinds of remembrances from the past, but it's directly related to why are you here now? And so what is the goal? What is the goal right now? And I think, the one thing that we've noticed from the folks that we've met at the conference and moving forward, that the one unifying event is that, everyone wants a truthful, organic, genuine unity to start to develop. and understanding. And, you know, we've always been really big about trying to get out the galactic history because it's so relevant to right now. So I think there absolutely is relevance to
Mhm.
the information that you're pulling, whether we call it the same names. There's everything that you mentioned in your story
Mhm.
is fits right along with some of the families and the dynamics and the infighting within families of how people should be treated. We treated them badly, maybe we shouldn't. No, we should continue. All of that goes right along with some of the galactic histories, and some of the different types of families that we understand were also involved. So none of what you're saying surprises us,
No,
you
no,
know,
it's
at
not
all.
surprising to us at all. We practically eat, sleep, and breathe this, where I've even had memories come back of being a Titan, being on the Council of Atlantis, arguing with Poseidon. So it's like I have that and other friends that have also had similar things occur as well.
And I do agree, because, you know, if people could truly understand how great they are in the totality of things, all of your lives, all of your experiences, you know, rolled up into one, the abilities that you may have had in one life, trying to, again, absolutely believe that people were raped, pillaged, and plundered, to try and bring those genetics back through now for nefarious reasons by other people involved in programs that you wouldn't want to be a part of if you could be in control, let's say, at that time. That all of it is, you know, very real to us as well. And again, we always say that, you know, for a lot of people, thank God they don't remember, because they would not like themselves if they remembered being taken into some of these programs and some of the things that they were coerced or mentally manipulated into doing. They wouldn't like themselves at all, and they would have a hard time coping with it. So,
Well, and a good thing to remind ourselves of when it comes to MK Ultra programs like Montauk, where we were doing the most evil things you could possibly imagine, is that we were programmed by Satanists, quite literally.
Mhm.
And the Ultra programming is hand in hand with their cult, with their ancient religion, and what they do. And they use us. They used me. I know for sure. Can't speak for other people, but they used me to do things that were so evil that they couldn't do them themselves. They
Mhm.
programmed me to do them for them. And that's something that I have to forever live with. And I have to remember that pretty much like 90% of the reason why I went through all this stuff is because a handful of unfortunately extremely powerful people are cowards. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why this happened to me, is because they were scared of me and they had to take my power from me and invert it and turn it into something evil, I guess, is what I think. Because I do know that despite the mistakes that I may have made, at the end of the day, I did go down and I did say to that king, like, hey, we fucked up big time. And yeah, it caused a huge war, and that's what people need to understand, is that's the reason why, even though we knew killing the humans or whatever was the wrong decision, we felt like it was the only solution, and we just needed to solve this problem. And they didn't like it. They didn't like that we wanted to kill our humans to begin with, and then they're like, by the time we even made that decision, they were already like, well, some of your humans are ours now, and you know, not to go be a broken record and repeat, but like,
no, but that's the struggle. And again, it's real struggle. It's the struggle that has happened in the galactics, because what we're talking about with galactic history from some of your memories, again, those were real races that landed on this earth that did things. And you think we were messed up, that we're messed up now? Let's tell you a little bit about, right, some of the dynamics that went on in the past. And you get to see that they were as messed up there at any moment as right now in any war you'd ever want to see here, that they blame. And that's the one thing that I would say, well, it's an interesting dynamic that somehow, again, humanity is bearing the brunt for being bad, Oh, hell no. We don't have that trophy, but but again, it serves another person's agenda to make us think we need to be in a repentance mode that we don't need to be in, and that their poop doesn't
Hmm.
stink and it stinks really bad.
Yeah, like think about like all the like programming, which is really like the Abrahamic religions. Is the programming is always like we're sinners, we're not worthy, we're born sinners. When really the reality is we're born pure, and the world can make us sinners, maybe, but it depends on the world you're living in. It all depends on what you're exposed to. It's the reason why somebody who grows up in poverty around a bunch of crime is more likely to become like a gang member than a college professor. You know what I mean? Like it's your environment does
Absolutely.
shape you. So, and yeah, the fortunate part, because I don't like being all doom and gloom, is we can create a more positive environment.
And
We can
some
create a better
people,
world.
yeah, and some people are going to be able to do that. Again, we're all about perspective, and again, that historical knowledge of where you came from is what you're talking about is directly related to why you are here now to not do that, that you don't want that to happen again. And again, without shame, without blame, and without guilt, your experiences in the past. I mean, I always joke and say, man, when I was bad, I went for the A plus plus to be bad. If I was going to be it, I was going to be it to the nth degree, right? So, because I bet you I was like that. So, my point is that it really, although we explore this other and we explore it, the key is staying now within the current present moment to be able to bring this knowledge out and talk about these experiences in order for there to be healing and understanding so that we can move forward and create a genuine unity. So there's purpose behind it, but not dwelling so much there all the time. But we absolutely believe that this information, getting out the information to give people a bigger perspective of life in general, and all of the things that they don't see around them and don't know about, is important for people to finally stand up in their authenticity and their sovereignty to say, no, we don't want this to go on anymore. And then the changes really, really, really do happen in a
Hmm.
way that we now want society to steer, no matter what someone else's agenda is.
And we've got a really big community here of truthers and paranormal experiencers, whistleblowers, and a lot of us don't agree on a lot of things. But the one thing that everybody agrees on, and which is probably the most important thing, is "I do not consent" is like the catchphrase, and everybody is saying, "I do not want this. This is not the reality that I want to help co-create. I do not consent to this, and I am putting forth the effort, the thought waves, whatever you want to call it, towards we're entering a hard timeline." That's like hugely the narrative we're seeing right now in the community. And it doesn't matter who it is. A lot of people, like I said, they disagree, but everybody's at least agreeing on that. And so it doesn't really matter what like happened in the secret space program. Someone says it happened this way or that way or whatever, and some people say it's all over and we already won or whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as the message is we don't consent to this anymore. You know what I mean?
Correct. And
That's
the
the most
one
important thing.
Right. And the one thing that we've noticed, even talking to different galactics or whatever, is that it there isn't a single truth. It truly is about perspective. And people looking at a car accident and they describe it many different ways, that it really becomes a perspective. And so again, how in the world could anyone bring back all of their memories? It's just impossible to do.
You live in so many lifetimes in these programs. I mean, for me,
Yeah,
I have, I think it's gone up to at least like 20 altars that I found, and I know there are more. And that's 20 lives. And usually they use the altars multiple times, so it's probably more than 20 lives. And it's just, how am I supposed to remember every little thing? That's just impossible. It's not going to happen. And you
right.
know what? I don't want to remember all of it. I do know that a lot of it I was like an evil piece of shit, and I'm not really concerned with those altars. And one message I want to also put out here, it's a bit random, but while we're talking about it, is like there's very hard to find altar integration. There are some people in the community that do it, and I just want to say that I've heard people say that you can't kill your altars, certain altars that you have, because you have to integrate them into your personality, and then they like become you.
Mhm.
And I have some altars that I've found that I've had no interest in integrating and having them become me because of how evil and psychotic they were. And what I've learned is that it is not true that to integrate them you have to let them live. What you can do is you can kill them. But the thing is like when people say like, okay, if you encountered one of your altars, let's say I encountered one of them, his name's Martin. Let's say I encountered Martin, my actual clone out in the world, and I killed them. Okay, he's problem solved. No, then he'll just come back to me and be in like my head, right? But once that happens, though, the thing is, because like you can't kill your altar that way, right? But you can do you go in your mind, you find where they are, the part of your mind, your psyche that they occupy. You put like a web around it. Like it's a lot of it's like astral stuff, and like you grab them, and you start eating their energy, and you start turning it into good energy. And so like you basically say like everything that is evil in them will become good, and everything good in them will remain, and their personality will become mine. But like I'm killing what made them this way, and you can integrate them without having to integrate their like you can integrate their energy without having to integrate their personality traits. You can do that. And I know a lot of people will probably try to tell me that's not true, but I've done it, so I know it's true. And you can self-integrate altars. That's all I've done so far, because I haven't helped anybody else integrate their altars yet. But I know through clairvoyance, because I've seen the future, that that's what I end up doing as a professional vocation, is at a facility and everything with like government funding. So like
Hmm.
yeah, I've seen it. It's actually located near Winnipeg in Canada, off of Shoal Lake. Well, there's a couple of Shoal Lakes, but it's one of the Shoal Lakes. And yeah, there's going to be a facility built there, and it's also the Native Americans that live over there are going to be a big part of it, because from what I've seen in other timelines where we sue the government because certain stuff comes out and we win, a lot of it is super duper tied to what the crown did. Because what happened to us at Montauk, which is a crime against humanity, the crown did that. The crown and the Catholic Church still kind of connected, but like the crown did that. The crown is hugely responsible for that, and so they'll be held responsible for that in conjunction with the thousands of Native Americans that were killed at the reservation schools
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And so, in the healing process of Montauk kids, it's some people might think this sounds weird, but a lot of people probably it makes sense. So actually, what am I saying? People probably won't think it's weird. The healing of the Montauk kids and like the MK Ultra victims goes hand in hand with the healing of Native communities. Like for instance, like we build, because the natives that live off of Shoal Lake, they got kicked out of Winnipeg basically, and it's not the best region, and they all have to go to Winnipeg for groceries. And once their kids are in high school, they got to go to Winnipeg for school, so then they're not home. So like one of the things that we do is like build them a grocery store, build them a high school, build them a free rehab clinic. So if they want to like get, because a lot of there's drug problems up there because of that and stuff like that. So that's what I recall, is that it's like the healing is not just like one group over here, one group over there. It's like everybody fucking does it together, and it's just an absolutely
Right.
beautiful thing.
Exactly. And the one thing I always say that's a red flag for anybody is when you're told it has to be done this way. When you're told that this is the way and this is the way that it
One
is
and only
done,
way.
it is the biggest red flag that is out there, because you can cut a pie many different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I go back to saying, now someone may believe this is a way because that is their perspective of what they have done with their learning and where they are and what they feel is the right or the wrong or the melding or whatever you want. But it is the one thing, again, when we say that, is that there are many ways to do something. And again, Should you always try to integrate everything is a big question out there, or should you only, utilize pieces? But we have a different perspective anyway, because we kind of believe that each one of us is a grand universe, all of our own, our what we refer to as maybe the higher self,
Oh, the oversoul.
the oversoul, or something is so massive that, we would, always say, if you need something from yourself, just open the library drawer, pull it out for a second, use it, and put it back. So the concept for me that says you have to integrate something that was created that is truly the antithesis of what you feel you are now, it doesn't even make sense to me, because the oversoul can take it, because the oversoul isn't ashamed of any of us. The oversoul isn't ashamed of any of its bits and pieces. It has a totally different perspective. It's just experience. And so bring that back that way. And then you would
Via the library, yeah.
and then you have access again to the library to pull in what you do and don't want. So we share probably a totally different, understanding of a different way that something can be done. And again, I know that there's a lot of you need to love it. Well, the reason I use the oversoul process is because the oversoul loves all of its bits and pieces. But, if I have a version of myself that is causing chaos and hate and evil, I don't care to associate with it right now. And I don't think there's anything wrong with me saying, why would I want to associate with an experience of myself? I don't even say, because I'm the oversoul as well. Why? I don't have to. I'll catch up with you later down the road. So I think, again, for people to just open their minds that certain ways may work for a practitioner, and they feel, but again, I say, and in your way will work great, and someone else will have a different way that's going to work.
Different strokes for different folks is what I always say.
Yes.
And
yes,
like for instance, like for me, like one of the reasons why I really like working with Amir when I do energy work is he calls on source.
Mhm.
I've worked with other people where they call on archangels, they call on this, they call on that. He calls upon source. So like that's one of the things that if somebody else calls upon Archangel Michael or whatever and it works for them, rad. That's great. That works for them. But for me personally, I like calling upon source. And yeah, and if it works, if you get to the same destination both ways, like who cares? You know what I mean? It's just different people do things different ways.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no one way to get to
there
the
isn't
goal.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where, again, where we talk about, the organic unity side of this would be a broader understanding that it doesn't always have to be the way that I do it. But if we have a platform of basically in our unity of how you treat people, what is, allowed or not allowed, and we all agree with that, whatever, then, whatever, however you arrive there and your destination is your experience. And isn't that why we're all here? We're not meant to be clones of one another. We're meant to have different experiences and different ways of doing things. And then again, to share. And within that sharing, we help all of ourselves grow. So
yeah, like that's the reason why, like I like the idea of the melting pot in the United States, where you can get in most American cities, you can go to a German bar and have a beer, go to a Mexican restaurant after that, and then you know what I mean? Like go get Indonesian food for lunch or whatever. There's all these different cultures, and that's why I really like living in a city. Some people say that it's not good and we should be all living in the middle of nowhere. I think we need to live differently. I think that the cities are designed wrong. It's not the fact that a bunch of people are in the one place. It's the fact that the city was designed wrong. It's designed around cars. It's designed around siphoning energy. It's designed around BS. But once we change things and make cities no longer revolve around that, they're great, because it makes they're always global epicenters where people from all around the world get together, and then they learn from each other and grow from each other and learn from each other's cultures and create this weird culture where it's a new culture created from a bunch of different cultures. And that's just like a beauty that I think that it just just when it comes to whether it's human culture or going out into space and then learning about ET cultures, that is just one of the beauties of existence. Like for instance, like the cultural exchange of the Ra and that Draco race before things went RE was just like it was a beautiful thing where we weren't exactly the same, but we're so similar and we learned so much from each other. And yeah, so I just think that like yeah, the whole different strokes for different folks and like not always doing the same thing same way. Like our universe, our lives, the galaxy, it would be so less enriched and so less beautiful, the tapestry of life, if everything was uniform and the same. We don't that is not what we want.
Exactly. It's like how the Martian Germans wanted it. The only reason we're not speaking, German and have implants in our neck is because there's all these different factions that either don't want it or they want things for themselves. So once all of that gets dealt with and people start recognizing these things more, yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes happening. Like you said, people, they may not agree on the same thing or believe the same thing, but they all want the same thing, and that's change.
Yeah,
So,
that's like the huge thing. I love that message of this.
mhm,
I like that. We kind of stumbled on an important truth there that we can continue to keep
Yeah,
spreading.
yeah,
exactly. And this is probably a good segue to have someone come in
yeah,
and comment.
yeah. There's a guide I always talk to. His name's Isaac. We have him come through all the time.
Isaac's a good name.
Yeah, yeah, and he was part of my family. If you saw him, he would look like me with red hair, but really tall. So at first, I thought this was an altar, but no, this is he is literally a family member, genetic family line. So just bright red hair and 7 feet tall. I've actually encountered him in person. So. He's actually telepathic. He's part tall white, part human. Uh, and him and his brother are generally between California and Arizona. Those where they are. They're around some of the military, but what they do is they're trying to alter the energetic state of around some of those projects and everything. So is what they're trying to do. He's one of the few that I've actually encountered physically in person. So and a couple of others. So let me see, Isaac. Yeah. Give me a second here. Ooh, a lot of energy flying around tonight. Let's see. Okay, Isaac. Oh, let's see. Through the crystal, please. Yes, this is indeed Isaac. I talk to him on a regular basis. I even shared some of his 20 and back experiences, attempting to kind of shadow and be around him as he was going through some of his experiences back there. And also his learning about passing through different timelines and different realities and watching those either collapse and alter or fade away altogether. And also things that he thought were in his imagination, where I originally told him I came in to help him with projects. That is not necessarily false, you see, because of the fact that I knew those, what he thought were fictional projects in the beginning, were actually memories of real realities. Yeah, and this is what some people run into. This is how they are getting some of those memories back, is they're turning it into fictional works or they're turning it into art pieces, things of that nature. The memory is coming out also in different emotional ways, and also different artistic ways and different written works, things that also apply to not just the one but the whole as well. So I know there's more than likely a limitation on time, so I can actually go into question and answer if you want to. Hmm?
Um, I really don't know what to ask, to be honest with you.
Hmm?
Uh,
Let me start. So in general, today we discussed quite a few things. One of the things we were talking about, again, was kind of that constant jumping of timelines and again, in how past lives can be helpful to understand yourself better in the current present moment? Because it sounded like to me that's been some of what he's been going through right now. So I was wondering if you'd comment on any of those things.
Yes, in fact, yes, I do recognize the projects that also Arkheim you were part of, such as Montauk, and yes, he himself was, or else there were certain bilocative techniques he would not have actually known about to use here, you see, if he did not have the instruction there, you say. So in his near-death experience that he had back in 2009, his brain rebooted to remember the unremembered segments of reality, bringing them forward into this reality, and therefore being able to use them to do what he does, you see, and being able to look into some of these different time frames. There is still an aspect of himself sitting in a chair somewhere, actually wondering why he is condemned to live into the chair. You see, it's a paradoxical reality that is actually sometimes orbiting people, as he says, like a moon that have come from those projects. There are paradox rifts that form, you see, around the people that have done this. The best example he likes to give is in your Star Trek Strange New Worlds, when Pike claims the time crystal this Klingon gives him, and the Klingon says then he is condemned to sitting in a wheelchair, you see. And so this is essentially a chair that is more of a walking death. This is essentially the analogy that was made to people that were in the time travel project. You're never condemned to truly anything. You can change and alter these things on a whim, as long as you are knowing that you are not co-creating your condemnation, you see. So with that, you are saying, yes, change. You must also be changed. That other people are actually accessing this change. You are never, nothing is ever truly solid in that way. It's not set in stone what you must become. Those that say those words, those that say that those rules are set in stone, are not right in the head, let's say. So I know there's a bit of slurring tonight. There's a lot of energy flying around close to Halloween. It tends to get very ugly as far as some of the energies go. He's actually shocked that he can actually channel in this way. But yes, also to all three of your curiosities in the programs, myself, I and my brother Thorsden, not only did we find those that were having programming installed in them and managed to, as you say, crack some of that programming. It's very much like how he likes to compare it. He calls the Death Star maneuver, where the scientists or the engineers put a flaw in the Death Star the rebellion could actually get rid of. We have actually helped crack certain programming, so therefore the person later on, even if their memory's wiped, can take that getting rid of that programming the rest of the way and eventually re-find out about themselves. There was a scene in your Earth 2 program when that was on where there was a future shown where the young boy that had some of the Terran DNA put into him was ordered to have it removed in the future. What they did is they stored a pure sample of it in the past, buried it, and made sure that some of them communicated with them in the past via the Terran dimensional aliens, and made sure to keep a piece of that ready so that his sentence, whatever he had in the future, carried, and then they could put it back. That's essentially what is actually going on now. What you think is lost and is buried in the sands of time somewhere is actually yours to reclaim, but only what is actually needed in the moment. Not all SSP people are made alike. Some come in, like your Tony Rodriguez, he came in to tell what he did verbatim. Others came in to tell some of their galactic history. Others that also is accessed by the programs. Others came in to tell a different angle that may only be necessary to tell that bit of the story to actually open up the energies in a different area via the butterfly effect or via the, you call them the benevolent Akashic records, you see. So it's not all of them are made alike, and that is absolutely fine, because all of them combined, you bring the people together agreeing to disagree, also wanting change. Guess what happens? Change occurs at that point. You do not argue or squabble over finite details, regardless of what you believe those details are. You'll find that there's more similarities than differences. So, any other questions for
Well,
myself?
I think that's really important, what you just said, because, it goes back. It's not like Chris and I, we do not spend a lot of time talking about, again, the secret space program and different things. We absolutely acknowledge it. We both understand it. But because of what we refer to as the tripwires and the self-farming of getting infighting to occur that can happen so easily amongst these groups that try to prevent this natural unity from coming up. So I didn't know whether or not, again, we just kind of help people to try and understand that what people see on TV, this all or nothing attitude about you either agree fully or you're out kind of situation, is not going to be how this develops. It's going to be developed by people's patience and tolerance and understanding that things are given as a perspective. But again, I was hoping you would talk just a minute about some of the techniques that are used to cause the infighting and why this is so important.
Yes, the infighting is also a lot of propaganda, a lot of getting people to believe they are anointed, the right ones, the chosen in society, you see, above everyone else, very much like some of the gods of old, of what you spoke of, Arkheim, you know, the ones that believed they needed the people as servants and slaves. This particular mentality, seeing them as lesser, stupid, you know, things of that nature, people of that nature. Even though, yes, there's a lot of stupid in the world, I will agree. But in this particular instance, getting people with planted ideas in their head via either V2K technology, your television, which is V2K in there as well, negative telepathy, any of these different ideas get people to believe something that they're not, or get people to not believe in something that they are. So getting people to divide within themselves. You divide the self, you divide the society, you divide, conquer, and control at that point. The way that, again, they do this is just by even the spoken word. Even getting people you see on your news, for instance, they use the same words, phrases, and visuals over and over and over again. It's a form of magic. You call it memes or mimetic magic, whatever name you want to give it. This is essentially it. So when people start to learn these magic techniques, they can counter these things. But also, if people are grounded in their truest self, knowing who they truly are in this moment in time, they are pretty much virtually untouchable. I can't promise there won't be some winging by of attacks and things of that nature. I understate it slightly because some things are slightly more severe for others and less severe for others. But in this instance, they are literally implanting words, visuals, and also energies, frequencies, and dampening. All these things combined, along with chemical manipulation, these are the ways people are being manipulated via the food, because they are literally intaking themselves by the air they breathe, the water they drink. And now, if you want these things changed, what you do is not see these things as conspiracy theory. You see these things as not only a reality, but a reality that's in flux and that can be changed, that is malleable. And if you don't like the timeline you're on, well, there's a million of them, a quadrillion of them to actually exist upon. Whereas the frequency you are, then you are in that particular reality. You can even speak to each other within groups as you go into different realities, but it's also, people don't like to hear this, but it's also based more on the individual in that area, but yet it is also a unity that is taking place. Very much like you can have different countries of people, and that they all do their different things, but as long as they're not fighting and killing one another, they're doing great. Then they agree to disagree. You don't need a forced new world order. What you need is unity and agreeing to disagree on even the most basic things and even the more complex things. Once you've accomplished this, you've beaten every bit of programming they've thrown at you.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, have you thought of any questions you'd like to ask?
Not really.
And
I did have one, but I forgot it. I should have wrote it down.
yes, the damn mind wiping will get you every time.
The Yeah, so we are collectively raising ourselves into a higher timeline, essentially, is what is we're right about that, basically, is what you're saying.
On an individual basis, yes. In some timelines you go to, even people that you've known could possibly be a different version of those people that have already reached that particular frequency. It's the same oversoul, just Rolodex it over to another avatar of them. You may seem to think it is the same one, but just sometimes you may even see a change in mannerisms, a change in their property, a change in things they own, a change in foods they like, you see. But it's actually, you're still looking at the same oversoul, so you recognize that person, but that avatar might be a slightly different rendition or variation, you see.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, do do you see the convergence in timelines happening in the future
Is
with
that
many of these different parallel timelines that are happening right now? I've been seeing a convergence point where right now they're going out like this, and I think we're getting to a point where they're going to slowly start going like this and then back into like one timeline.
It's
People
not
have,
necessarily just one timeline. You are actually seeing, when you're seeing these convergences, you're seeing similarities meld together, but there's always going to be a multitude of parallel universes. This will always be.
right.
But some of the similar ones, and there are some that are collapsing that creation is basically saying no more. And there are some that have been deleted, like in your show Loki, where the TVA deleted some that had to do with some war and infighting going on, like you were saying, timelines that are collapsing and people are gathering property and objects and killing people, things of that nature. A small version of the temporal war, like the Orions did. It's more of a self-farmed version of that, but also opposing sides where you can have another version of yourself trying to dictate what you do here. Some of these things you will see be put to a close. You can't always account for all of it, but you would account for a lot of it. And this is exactly what you're seeing converging. There's sometimes the best medicine where you have some invading force that's in a timeline that's actually corrupted, is you delete the timeline they're sitting on. So this is
I've got
essentially what's
I've
going on.
got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you see a potential of different people who were part of the Montauk Project and other dark projects that were happening along around the world that are similar becoming part of a global council?
Yes and no. They will start to do things in their own areas at first, and they may cross paths like all of you have crossed paths. So essentially, you could kind of say that's a council, but starting the little fires of information where they are will lead eventually to something just like this. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you for that. What do you see happening as far as with the music? Because we are seeing that a lot of these nefarious forces that were taking over our music are now getting called out, and I guess just in general art. Do you see like a new age for music and art happening? Because I mean, I think I see a lot of people think it's like the end, but I really think it's like the beginning.
You're seeing some of the negative voices that say collapse behind it, also being thrown into the bus by the Martian Germans, like your Diddy's and your Epstein's and things of that
Yeah.
nature. What ends up happening in this particular instance is you will start to see some of the good out there because, again, people want change. So they'll begin to create the things that they were actually dreaming up. They looked for it in others for so long, you see. They'll say, oh, this doesn't exist right now, I'll create it, and you'll start to see more of a renaissance in that area. The year is undetermined because it is determined by the frequency by which people are hastening this along, you see. But to give an estimate, you'll start to really see within this next decade, this I can actually say, you'll start to see some more songs that have more of a depth to them to actually fill in the holes that these evil bastards left behind. You see, you'll start to see those, he calls it filling the missing spaces of vanishing expressions with true benevolent source creator light for the highest good of all. You see, so it's essentially that's what you will start to look at the more as you traverse the timelines. You'll start to see those voids being filled.
Thank you.
Any further questions from either one?
No, because I know that time is kind of important here, that we don't go too far. Is there anything else you have, or we'll close this session out?
Yeah, we can always do this again. One thing I wanted to do is I wish I would have thought of this earlier, and I understand if you can't make it, but you guys can come. I'm gonna be doing a stream later, and we're talking about like relationships and being like a targeted individual or like SSP or whatever. And you guys don't have to be there for the whole time, but even if you could just pop in and say hi, it'd be nice to if you could do that. But I understand if you can't because of the short notice.
Sure. Yes, thank you. Yes, I myself will dislodge at this point in time. Thank you all for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Yes, that would actually that'd be great to do sometime. Probably won't be tonight, but
Okay.
that'd be definitely
We'll have
great.
to do a part two in the future or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have anything else to add before we close this circle out?
No, I just hope, again, I always hope the same thing, that everybody feels that, they could sit in peace and listen to this conversation that we were having, and that, hopefully something is inspiring in there that you can use in your life and in your future endeavors. And that's what we always wish. So, go ahead and close the circle and close it out.
Okay. Thank you everybody for watching this real special episode with Arkheim Ra. A great guest of ours today. We'll definitely have him back on. We've had Brian back on. We're going to have eventually Penny Bradley on. We're going to have plenty of others from the Disclosure Circle on here. So hope you all look forward to this. Hope you all subscribe to our sister site, galacticinterstellarcouncil.com. Also go to thelifting.net if you wish a session with myself. Arkheim, do you have any websites or anything you want to direct anybody to?
I mean, people can just check out, Disclosure Now with an explanation point on YouTube. We have 3 shows a week now that we're trying to keep up with. I think probably every once in a while we'll have to like skip a week for 1 or 2 shows here and there. But overall, we're trying to do the shows once a week. So we have Sundays, we have New Earth Light Brigade, and then Tuesdays we have Full Disclosure Now. Oh yeah, I should also mention my co-hosts. New Earth Light Brigade on Sundays with Audrey Walters, and then we have Full Disclosure Now on Tuesdays with Brian Singh, and then on Wednesday we have Virtual Temple Complex, which is we were originally going to call it the Unity Project, but there's a million things called the Unity Project, so we picked a more obscure name that's kind of a joke name because Virtual Temple Complex basically means like cult or church or something, but it's a virtual meeting space. And that's why you guys are like, it's all open invite usually. We kind of have like guests, so we promote it, but it's kind of like just hanging out, talking about stuff, talking about just collaborative testimony, trying to get everybody on the same page. If people aren't on the same page, it's supposed to be an outlet where maybe they can figure out why and get on the same page. And so all these shows, it's like I said, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're all at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and then you can translate that for the rest of the world, but that's the time that they're at, and then they're always available. The replay is always there. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on lately, and what I'll be up to until the unforeseeable future. So, but yeah, thank you again for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you again for being on, Arkheim. I do believe now this is where we are now closing the circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Thank you, everybody, for watching this. Hope you enjoyed this. So, bye-bye now.
Bye.